Once again, that's something that should have been brought to my attention yesterday. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Rewatch and Review, a show where I rewatch a movie I haven't seen in a while and review it. And of course, I picked, you know, this movie, fucking Wedding Singer, which right here, which I have the totally awesome edition, which I did not know added a scene into the movie that wasn't in the original theatrical version that I ever saw. It's just one little scene, but it's there, and I could definitely tell it was not something that like was there to begin with, but we'll get into that actually later. So I'm gonna be talking about first off, I'm gonna be talking about uh so when this first came out in 1998, I had already become an Adam Sandler fan. Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, and then this movie, Bulletproof. I just I became my cousin used to come over and we would go to movies, and I think we used to go see a lot of these movies. I remember seeing Bulletproof with him, I believe. And he got me into Adam Sandler and as a kid, and I mean I probably would have already been into Adam Sandler anyway. But it was really nice, and a lot of his movies sort of brought me joy. And I've always said that Billy Madison was like my favorite movie of his. And it still is. It's my favorite movie of his. I don't know why. For some reason, that movie always just gets me. And I can watch that movie over and over again and just never get bored of it. Happy Gilmore's up there too. But The Wedding Singer, I'd always thought was like my favorite of the Drew Barrymore ones. And then 51st Dates, I became more like in love with 51st Dates. And then I stopped watching this one. I don't like Blended that much. And it's not I just don't find it as funny. And I find some of it a little bit more mean-spirited. Now, we'll get into like what people might consider mean-spirited in this movie. I don't. So if you do consider some of this mean-spirited, you're wrong. Um, well, we'll get into that. So to begin with, my movie, I rewatched this movie tonight, like right before doing this. And I don't know, man. Like it made me cry. Like I probably still have tears in my eyes a little bit. The movie is heartwarming, is heart-wrenching, is kind of sad at points, like heartbreaking, at times. Uh, and I forgot how much that was in the movie because I think when I was a kid, I never thought about it or it didn't relate to any of it or whatever. And I think I related to Robbie a lot more now than I ever did before. And I've always thought like Robbie Hart was one of the sweetest characters. By the way, I want to point something out to you guys. If you guys didn't already know this, which I don't think if you unless you're like a big fan like I am, who probably have noticed this kind of stuff, he tends to like to have characters that sort of sound similar or is similar. So if you look at what is it, Billy Madison, it was Billy and it was Veronica. In Happy Gilmore, it was Happy, not Billy, Happy, and it was um she started it wasn't Vicky because Vicky was another character, but like there was another V character, whatever. Anyway, all of those movies, Virginia, I think Virginia Bennett. So there's the V, there was all these characters that had all the girls have V names, all the guys ended in like in Y sounding name, Robbie, Billy, things like that. Like Billy, Robbie, Happy. all that stuff. He did that for a while, and he had the V characters of Bobby Boucher and Vicky. So like he did that, and this was one of the ones that he didn't do. He still did Robbie, but he had her character named Julia, and I think it was only to get the character to have Julia Gulia, which which he makes that joke about oh, her name's gonna be Goulia, last name's gonna be Goulia, Julia Gulia. And the guy's like, why is that funny? And and then he does that I don't know thing, which he does a couple times in this movie, which I think is a funny little little bit of a thing. Um we'll probably get into that later. But so I thought that was always fun. Um, this movie had a lot of heart. So let me go into like the storyline of it and stuff. So Robbie Hart is a wedding singer who is doing really well for himself, as far as wedding singers go in his town, Ridgefield. I don't know where that is. I'm guessing New York, maybe. I'm not sure. But anyway, so he meets Julia one day. Julia's a the cousin of one of the waitresses, and she just needed a job waitressing because she's come to that town to be with her fiance, who hasn't yet figured out the date for the wedding. Because he's fooling around, he's doesn't care. He's stringing her along. And he just the the way he kind of goes into it is just terrible. Um, of course, in the beginning, what's his name? Robbie knows none of this, and Robbie only trusts like his buddy Sammy, who's the limo driver. So there's the limo driver for the wedding couple, and there's Robbie, the wedding singer, and Robbie has his band, including his character George, played by Alexis Arquette. I will say something. I've always been really sad uh when Alexis passed. Alexis, I was actually at a horror convention when we got the word that Alexis Arquette had passed, and I saw firsthand when David Arquette, um, her brother, got up out of the table to leave to go home and to be with his family, and it was one of the saddest moments of my life, and in a way because I just knew exactly like I knew that's how I'd feel too, and I kind of felt that way already because I grew up with Alexis Arquette in a bunch of different movies and absolutely loved Alexis Arquette, loved David Arquette as well. I loved seeing his movies. So anyway, I didn't get a chance to meet David that weekend, and I hope to run into him someday. So anyway, so I was watching this, and Alexis Arquette's character uh only knew one song, which was Do You Really Want to Hurt Me by I forgot Culture something Culture. Um and she's singing that song, and everybody is just like, "Oh my God," because they only know she only knows one song. Um, so then, um, what is it? Robbie, Robbie does this really, really sweet speech to the when like after the brother-in-law and brother, the best man, played by Steve Buscemi, does a really nasty like speech, basically about how that guy's not perfect and all this other stuff because he's drunk. And so Robbie kind of breaks him away and everything and kind of derails the whole thing and talks about how much he can tell those two are in love with each other. And you, I mean, having seen the movies like years ago, I have not seen this movie for years, even though I bought the movie even further. I think 2018 I bought the movie from my buddy um Rick, who does Down to Movie, or did Down to Movie. I don't think he has the channel anymore or does anything with that channel. Um he sent me like a bunch of movies. Wedding Singer is one of them. And I'm collecting all of the Adam Sandler movies. And I just found it to be like that scene where he's, talking to everybody. It was the sweetest thing, he had his really good moment. He really needed that. And he was talking about how he was about to get married and how he hopes to be just like them, that kind of thing. Very sweet. Then, he's setting up for his own wedding. He meets Julia before then. Before at the wedding, he meets Julia, and Julia kind of gives him, this sort of like, I hope you can sing at my wedding and all this stuff. And they have a little heart to heart talk, and it's very sweet. Then, the big day is coming, and we get to we meet all these characters, whatever, before the big day comes, and his girl Linda doesn't show up, and there's his sister comes and tells Robbie that Linda wrote a note and said that she's not coming. So it really upsets Robbie and sets him off into this really dark, depressing, mood where he doesn't want to play weddings. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like you got your heart broken at a wedding. Why are you gonna go and do that? Like that's just putting yourself back into like that thing. And like I think everybody can relate to a lot of this. Even if you haven't had like moments where you were obviously if you didn't have any moments where you what is it had to deal with going, you're not a wedding singer, but we've all we've all had our heart broken so bad, and we didn't want to go back to our job or something where we were going to be reminded of what happened, of how we got our heart broken and everything. And like if you worked with the person, you wouldn't want to go back to work, That's why they tell you don't do that, But it's tough. It's a really tough situation. He got really depressed, and so he sings at this one wedding because his buddy Sammy basically coaxed him into it, and he sings this thing, and he sings really sad song, sad thing. And the guy who paid for the wedding, probably the father of the bride, gets really upset, and keeps telling him, I didn't pay you to hear your thoughts on life, pal. I paid you to sing. And he says, I've got the microphone and you don't, so you will listen to everything I have to say, that kind of thing. And then he's talking about all these things. Then he does Love Stinks, and he ends up getting into a fight with the father of the bride, and later we see him in the dumps. And I don't know if that was supposed to be sort of a symbolism in a way of how he was, but he's down in the dumps, literally. And so, you know, he's just heartbroken, and Julia still wants him to sing at her wedding, and he has no interest really of anything. Like he just wants to just move on with his life somehow, forget Linda, all this stuff. So later, Julia and Robbie starts helping Julia with all the wedding stuff, the stuff that he knows all about, because he's been around a lot of weddings. So he's probably heard a lot of different things, and you should go to Tony's instead of Marshall's. You should go and do this instead of this, and so he starts helping her out, and it's very sweet. But in the time that he starts helping her out, he starts to really fall in love with her. And she starts to sort of fall in love with him, but she doesn't want, I don't think she wants to even like admit it at first. And then there's that, one day so, okay, even before then, before we get to that, Even before he starts helping her out. He gets to meet the asshole fiance, played by Matthew Glave, I want to say his name was. And he was so good. That dude is did such a great job of like being a complete ass. Yeah, it was perfect. And then so he kind of tells, um, they kind of have this moment. I really like that moment because, uh, his friend, interestingly enough, played by a future filmmaker for Adam Sandler, Steve Brill, who did, I believe he did like Mr. Deeds. He has a scene, and there's a scene where he says, oh man, you're Robbie Hart? I heard what happened to you at your wedding. Man, that was so cool. You must feel like shit. I was like, nah, man, it felt great. My parents died when I was 10. Do you want to talk about that? Why would we talk about that? I don't know. And later, he tells them to have a couple drinks and drive home. Which just those little lines are so good. And especially when you're dealing with depression and you're dealing with things and you don't want people to fucking bring it up. That's like the last thing. You just want to just live life. You don't want people going, "Oh man, I remember what happened to you. I heard what happened to you. That sucks." Right? Like, no, shut the fuck up, dude. But that guy was an asshole, just like Glenn. And so Glenn and the asshole guy gonna leave, and and Drew Barrymore kind of Julia convinces Robbie to help him. They start helping, even trying to find a new wedding singer. They find one guy, John Lovitz, and he's terrible. Like he's just a man whore kind of guy who like just yeah, asshole. And they have some words or whatever, and Robbie is just so nice, just taking everything. Afterwards, she wants to hear him do an original song, and so he he tells her the only one he has is like this one he wrote for Linda when half of it was when they were together, half of it was when they broke up, and so it feels like the half starts it off, and then the other half is all like somebody kill me please, and it's a great song. I never even thought about it, but basically this is a musical in a way, without being like a musical where everybody sings. It's a musical where Adam Sandler, John Lovitz, and Steve Buscemi sing, and Alexis Arquette. Um, but it's also became a musical for Broadway. And on this disc, you can see that thing. So they a nice special feature where well, yeah, a nice special feature that's like behind the scenes of the musical, which is pretty neat. Tells you how it all came to be and whatnot. But I don't know. I would have rather had a making of this movie, to be honest. Then, and I did hear sort of that Tim Hurley got the idea from Adam Sandler, who said Adam Sandler said he wanted to do a movie about a wedding singer who gets left at the altar. Like, and that just right there, that's just brilliant. I don't know how somebody just comes up with that like that. Like it's just like, it'd be really funny if like it sounds like it could have been like an original skit, and then they just decided it could work as a feature, like skip for Saturday Night Live or something. Um, but so Adam Sandler and her kind of falling in love while they're doing everything, and they really like become like falling in love when uh Christine Taylor, which is uh Julia's, played by Christine Taylor, um Holly wants to see sort of how like a church tongue is, or whatever for a kiss. So she asks Robbie to do it. And already we know that Robbie's fallen in love because he had a talk with his friend, and his friend said, "Oh man, you got the hots for her." and everything. And so we know he really has the hots for it. He really does. Doesn't want to admit it because he doesn't want to break up their uh soon to be marriage. And so I think a lot of that is why this movie works because had it really just been about like a guy who wanted to break up the wedding, I think it would have even with the guy being an asshole, if like the whole time that was his plan, let me figure out how to break up this wedding. I don't think I would have connected with Robbie as much. And I think the fact that he does fall in love with her, he wants to show her he's a good guy, all these things. Um, I think it really works. So, for his character. So anyway, moving on. Um, was it Robbie and Julia kind of have this kiss, and this amazing kiss is really good. You could tell there was chemistry. Um, that's the thing. Like you could tell throughout this movie that there was chemistry between Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. Like absolutely 100%. Yeah, absolutely. I think there was this crazy amount of chemistry. And so when they do that kiss, I mean, I don't know. It looked really good. And then later, Drew and him did two other movies where they were, together. And so maybe even more. Maybe they'll do another one day. I hope so. Uh, I really like this, and yeah, I like that he has what's Jennifer Aniston. He uses a lot now. He he does really well with romantic comedies like this. So So they kind of have this like explosive kiss, and Holly says that was incredible. Like, Robbie leaves. She says that's incredible. I want to date Robbie. And so can you set that up? And so she says, sure. Then we get this scene. We get this weird fucking scene. So I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but there's this old lady who is uh getting lessons from Robbie, and she's getting paid in meat, or she's paying him in meatballs. So it's like voice lessons to sing better. She wants to do this basically I guess renew her vows and do this song in front of her husband and everything. And so she's trying to do this, and then there's this really random scene that, well, I guess was cut, and I understand why. Like we didn't need it, but it's a scene where she's doing some like bench presses and all these other things, and the old lady is talking about how uh she's talking about like Adam Sandler's penis and shit, and it gets really fucking weird. I was like, what the fuck? And he feels so uncomfortable. It's like, yeah, let's change the subject, and he's not like wanting to talk about it. She's talking about how she was there at his bris and saw it get cut off and all this other shit, and like it was just so like what? What? Like, I'm glad it exists, but it really was unnecessary. And then later, Julia comes over to talk to him to ask him if he'll go out with Holly. And he can't say, no, I'm not going to date your cousin because I'm really madly in love with you. He should, or he could have, but he doesn't. Once again, he is very sweet and doesn't want to break it up. So he goes on this date with Holly, and they're on this, like, they're hanging out at this, like, club, and you're all sitting down talking, and Julia's getting jealous of Holly and Robbie and has to leave. Has to go throw up. And so Holly takes her to go throw up, and that gives Robbie some time with Glenn. And Glenn starts talking about how he cheats on her and all this other shit. Starts opening like he just doesn't care, like so he's talking about all this stuff and how the girl is like this one waitress chick was all prime meat and stuff like that. And uh, he just Robbie just feels so bad for Julia, but can't say anything because it might break it up, but it also might ruin their friendship. And if he is really like so much in love with her, I could definitely relate. Like, I mean, I've never had that necessarily happen. I've never had a scene in my life where I saw how much of a douchebag somebody was. I wish I had. But my one of my best friends dated a narcissist, and we were living together, and she would come home and whatever. And if I had a part in my life where the guy had talked about all these girls he was like messing around with or something, um, I don't know what I would have done. That would have made me feel awkward because, me telling my friend that stuff might ruin our friendship, because she'd be like, "Oh, you misunderstood," or you know what I mean? Like, would she trust me over the dude? Well, now she would definitely trust me over the dude. But like then, you know what I mean? So I get this. I get this movie like completely. And so Julia and Robbie kind of have like moments together and it's really sweet and I love it. And it's exactly what, needs to sort of be going on and I mean they're very so he he goes home with Holly and they have a kiss and Holly's into it, but he doesn't want to do anything. And she notices you're in love with her and but you know why she's, marrying the guy is because of security and being, and money and all this stuff. And so he decides he wants to be secure and get a job and work at a bank instead of, helping people out and stuff like that. And um I don't know. There was a scene. Now I don't know if it went longer or if it was a scene I don't that wasn't in there, but Julia goes to check up on Robbie and give him a present, which is like these songs, I guess, for her wedding and stuff. And you know, and I mean, he kind of when she sees him, he had just gotten rejected by the bank, and he's just really in a shitty mood and he doesn't like the fact that she's marrying this guy and all this stuff is going on in his head. And she says to him, uh, you know, um, why are you doing this? Why are you going to find a job at the bank or whatever? And he said, because, I want to be secure and, I don't want to help other people out. I want to help myself out. And she tells him he's selfish, but he doesn't care at that moment because he cares about her. Like he's trying to do all this stuff to impress her, to make her, like him. I think at that point he kind of turned into an asshole because he thought that's what she liked because she was dating an asshole. So she was like, no, she didn't want the asshole anymore. She wants him. She was interested in him. Um, and they have some more scenes and there's a scene at a bar with this old man and um later he wants to tell her how he feels, but he sees her happy, looking happy. What she's happy saying is, her name and his name together instead of the other guy's name. She doesn't like Julia Gulia. Um, so then he doesn't want to he gets drunk and pa passes out in his yard in front of his ex who wants him back because I guess she can't get anybody else at that rate, so she's just like, fine, I'll just stick it out with this guy, whatever, which is bullshit. Played by Angela Featherstone, who we reviewed a movie called Pressure that starred her and Lachlan Monroe and Kerr Smith. Um, for our Patreon only for Indie Film Cafe. Anyway, Angela Featherstone, I forgot she was Linda in this. Uh, opens the door to Julia when Julia knocks on her door, and she says he's indisposed, he's in the shower, which he wasn't. And she's just trying to, whatever. She knows that this girl likes Robbie, and she's not going to let her get in the way. Well, when Robbie wakes up, he tells her to go, get out of his Van Halen t-shirt before they break up, before she jinxes the band and they break up, which is a great line. And so then he goes to, was it, she goes to, um, she gets kicked out, and he, um, but that seeing Linda and him back together again, that makes her want to just jump to Vegas and get married with Glenn. And they go on a when Adam Sandler finds out about Robbie finds out about it, he goes to the airport to stop them to go to he doesn't care. He's gonna go find the thing, but the only tickets he could get is first class. And he's never flown first class before. And he meets Billy Idol, who we see earlier in the movie with the White Wedding, and which kind of perfect for the song, for like what was going on. And Billy Idol like completely like loves him, and they end up being on the same plane as um Julia and Glenn. However, also he's come up with a song that he wants to sing for her. So when he finds out they're on the same plane, he goes and sings the song. And it's Grow Old With You, which I think is one of the sweetest songs that Adam Sandler has ever written. It is just so fucking sweet. And after that, um they end up what is it? He's singing the song and the guy's about to go hurt him, and they basically throw him in the in a room and shut the door, in the bathroom, I guess it was. Um Now, the join the Mile High Club, kind of, whatever line. But the funny thing is, I worked with a guy from The Wedding Singer. I worked with this guy Al Burke, who was the guy who was a huge Billy Idol fan. And when the guy's, saying, "Hey, Billy Idol, get out of my way, you're gonna get hurt." Al Burke's line in the movie is, "Hey, you don't speak to Billy Idol that way," and pushes him down to where they lock him up. But I thought that was really cool. I got to work with him on a James Balsamo movie called Alien. Uh, my God, I am like completely blanking these days. It's an Alien movie I did with him. Probably the only one I've done Alien one I did, and Al Burke did a great job in that movie, and I had a fun time meeting him and working with him. So, but then I found out who he was, and I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. I love that movie, and I love that scene. Like when he explained to me that scene, he was like, I was a Billy Idol fan. I was like, I remember that. Like that's a very memorable scene. That's really cool. Um, and so after that, you know, he comes and talks to Julia, and he says, I gotta, she says, that's a beautiful song. He says, I got a confession to make. I wrote that for you. And she says, good. And he says, I'm in love with you. And she says, I am so in love with you. And they kiss. And then we get cut to their wedding. And, yeah. Was it, Steve Buscemi is playing a song and, uses the words Robbie and Julia together at the end. And it's just such a sweet movie. Like I said, it is one of those movies where you really care about the characters. You care about Drew Barrymore. You care about Adam Sandler. You don't like the boyfriend, but it's not. There is a scene where he gets punched in the nose, by the guy, and he said maybe you could write a song about it. Call it "I got punched in the nose for sticking my face in other people's business." And the old man from the bar says, "That sounds like a country song," which is kind of cute. But yeah, he didn't he wasn't trying. Like he was trying to be a good guy and everything. and he didn't want to tell Julia to break her heart or to make her mad at him for trying to ruin the wedding and stuff. And so I get it. You can't. You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. And so that kind of sucks. Um, but at the end, it worked out really well. They both fell in love with each other, and the mother is played by Christine Pickles, I want to say her name was. She was the mother of Julia, is just saying, you are, you want to leave Glenn for the wedding singer? And yeah, so a lot of those people like have very superficial feelings and stuff. And Sammy does for a while, but then he says a line where he says, do you know why Fonzie and uh, whatever happened to Fonzie and Vinny from I guess it was Welcome Back Cotter. Do you know what happened to them? And they he says the Fonzie wants to direct movies now, and Vinny's the Mechanical Bull movie, because took place in 1985. And he was like, no, they stopped doing the shows because nobody wants to see 50-year-old men hitting on chicks. And he's like, I need to settle down. So that's a big part of the theme of the movie is like growing up, and I really felt like I needed to see this movie today. Um, I can't really relate to the wedding singer part of it, the wedding thing, but I can definitely relate to feeling like, you know, the world is ending maybe for a little bit, and then all of a sudden good things start happening, but you can't control everything. And I feel like this movie definitely had a lot of that. I had posted on Facebook that even though Billy Madison was my favorite movie of his, that this movie was probably his best. I want to fix that. I want to say that this probably wasn't his necessarily the best movie as far as acting goes necessarily. It's a great movie for acting. It's definitely one of the better scripts. However, it is probably one of his best comedies. People brought up like Punch Drunk Love. You could probably bring up Uncut Gems and a ton of different movies of his where he plays, the more dramatic roles. Punch Drunk Love has a lot of comedy to it, but it's very dramatic. Like it's not meant to be like it's meant to be like a dark comedy, I guess. With very dramatic scenes too. So I love that movie, but I love Wedding Singer a little bit more. But as far as comedies go, I think this is his best. And you know, I I've got to rewatch at some point. Maybe I'll do it like next year or something. Rewatch what's that movie? Then he's in Waterboy. Waterboy. Waterboy's not a bad movie, but it's not my favorite of his. So anyway, that's it. I mean, that's pretty much the movie and my thoughts on it. I enjoyed rewatching this so much. Uh, it definitely holds up still. I think it's because they chose to do 1985, where it was a specific year that like big things happened that year, and they knew about it, so they kind of used those things into the movie, incorporated them in. So it was a great movie. I really hope that if you haven't seen the movie, I just spoiled the shit out of it, so sorry. But if you haven't seen Wedding Singer, me talking about it won't do the movie justice. You've got to see it on your own. Um, and with that, I want to thank you guys for another one of this. Uh, my plan for now, understand things could change, but my plan for now is Die Hard for next month because next month is close to Christmas. Figured why not? I didn't want to do something like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles for this necessarily. Maybe next year in November, we'll see. But I wanted to do yeah, I wanted to do this I feel like this was a movie I hadn't seen in a while. I think I was talking to someone about the time to make the donuts commercial and how and that's what sparked like this thought like, ooh, I haven't seen Wedding Sinkers. Let me make a they say the Glenn says the line of you think the time to make the donuts guy is sexy to Holly and meaning she thinks everybody is sexy. And he says something like, "Oh, that guy's funny." And I that was the thing, like, because I think at that time that was the big commercial. So they used that. It was fun. It was enjoyable. It was done by New Line, which surprised me a little bit, but I had a blast. As I said, it's the way I saw it's the totally awesome edition. I think that's the only Blu-ray you can get. It's got a backstage look at the Wedding Singer on Broadway and a theatrical trailer, and it's got that extra weird fucking scene in the movie. Honestly, just to see that added in, that'll like probably throw you guys off so bad. But it is really good and really funny, and I hope you guys get a chance to rewatch this if you do, and let me know what you guys' thoughts are on it. I'm not sure if it's streaming anywhere. Once again, I bought the Blu-ray, so I don't need to, but I really enjoyed this, and I would love to talk to you guys more about it at some point. So just give me a like and let me know what you guys think about this. And do you agree, like, with my sentiments about how sweet the characters are and how adorable and just nice? This mean-spirited scenes. Oh, I forgot to mention that real quick. The spirited scenes in this movie, the ones where he yells or whatever, those were perfect because anytime he did that, it was sort of like heart-wrenching and sad. And it was because there was nothing else for him to do. Like he was going through something really, really hard. And we should all sort of understand that in some way or another. Is when you're dealing with a breakup like that bad, you don't want to do anything. You're depressed. You want to just sit at home. For girls, it's like supposedly like eat ice cream and everything. And maybe some guys don't do this. Some guys might not be able to relate to Robbie because Robbie is too nice of a guy kind of thing. But I like that. I like that. I mean, considering and Big Daddy, his character was a big dick, pretty much the whole time. I'm sorry. He really does not change. Even with the kid, he doesn't really change. He's still a complete dick. Um but he's still funny in that movie, so that I still like the movie. I just don't like it nearly as much as this movie. Mr. Deeds is very close to this movie in a way, like with his character and everything, but sort of mimicking in a way his version of Jimmy Stewart. And so I get it. But this movie, I think was the perfect example. Oh, for 51st Dates, his character was just sweet as hell. But then you look at Blended, his character's an asshole most of the time. He's got moments, but like most of the time he's an asshole. Um, just go with it. I don't remember him necessarily if he was an asshole or not. I don't think so. I think he was a nice guy. He was a nicer guy in that one. Maybe not. But I know Blended, he like had a scene with Drew Barrymore where he was just being a complete dick. And then of course, you know, they're on the same, you know, vacation or whatever to Africa. So anyway, I think you guys will get a kick out of this movie if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it, I'm sure it's one of those movies that hopefully you watch over and over again. Wait, when I'm doing this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.